And there's the Katie Couric smile that we all know and love. It's great to see
Oh,
you. It's
that big gummy smile. Yes.
no, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's wonderful to see you. It's great to talk to you. There's so many millions of ways we can start. I mean, you just saw I was interviewing the governor of Colorado. If you would ask me 6 months ago, would I be interviewing the governor of Colorado over my phone? I would have said no, I wouldn't be doing that. But here we are.
Isn't it awesome? I know initially, listen, when I started doing Instagram lives, I was sort of embarrassed a little bit
Yeah.
back in the day, a few years ago. And I thought, gosh, people must think loser.
Yeah.
She was the anchor of the Today Show and the CBS Evening News, and now she's doing Instagram Lives. And now I'm very excited to be doing it on Substack. And I used to sort of feel almost sheepish about it, Jim. But honestly, it is so much fun. It feels so much more immediate. First of all, you
Yeah.
look amazing. Your picture
Oh,
is crystal clear and you look fantastic. And you don't need all the trappings of a big, desk with, what do you call that plastic stuff, you guys?
the acrylic desk or
Yes, thank
whatever,
you.
and
Kind of, yeah, the acrylic
you
top
know,
and all the makeup people. Well, I could use some of the makeup people,
no, I
honestly, but running around kind of making sure you look good and the teleprompter. And I think it leads to much more sort of natural, authentic conversations. And I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're doing well on this platform because
yeah.
honestly, I was really pissed what happened to you at CNN. It made
Uh,
me really, I
Thank
felt
you.
it was really upsetting. And I think it was an example, just one of the earliest examples of a network capitulating to an administration that is making these demands. And you see a lot of anticipatory obedience and present tense obedience, and it really upset me, so I was very excited to see you landed on your feet here.
Aw, thank you. That means so much, Katie. It means the world that you're saying that. And I mean, I've always respected you. I mean, I just think that you're a legend in this business. And I remember on 9/11 watching you report to the world what was taking place that day. I mean, your work has been burned in my memory for so many
Well,
years.
because I've been doing it for so long, Jim.
No, no, it's not that.
Every time they refer to me in any publication, it's like veteran journalist. I'm like, you can say I'm old, it's okay.
But I'm not saying that. I mean, my mom raised me to be a gentleman, and she would hit me over the head if I ever offended a woman whatsoever, if I did not hold the door open or
It's
anything.
okay. It's okay.
So,
At some point, I think we should be embrace like every
yeah,
stage of life, and
I think so too.
it shouldn't be a negative thing. And I feel like I do have a lot of experience in journalism, and I think it serves me really well, particularly at the time we're in right now.
Well, and it works really well here on Substack and in independent media because getting back to your comment earlier, I mean, I think a lot of people are frankly pissed off and they're a little sick and tired of what's taking place with these brand name media outlets bending the knee. And we're seeing CBS right now pondering whether they should pay basically a bribe to the president of the United States. We saw ABC pay millions of dollars. This is something that you and I did not experience in this business up until this point, and it's very troubling to a lot of Americans, and I think that's why folks are gravitating over to places like Substack and independent media outlets like this, and to folks like yourself, because they say, "I trust Katie. She might not be with a big brand name company, but I trust her. I'm going to go to her to get information."
Yeah, it's really quite gratifying in terms of people feeling like I'm a straight shooter. I generally know what I'm talking about, and when I don't, I admit it. But I
Yeah,
think you're right. The capitulation of all of these networks and, the slow kind of acceptance, and even recently, Jim, I'm sure you've read, and probably your followers too, that there's a lot of pressure, not only obviously with the lawsuits, which we can talk about, because I think the ABC News lawsuit really opened the floodgates
yeah,
and basically emboldened the Trump administration to make further steps. And we see what's happening at CBS, which I think is appalling
yeah.
and quite frankly disgusting. But it's very worrisome now that the people who are still working in traditional media, legacy media, however you want to describe it, are being
Yeah.
pressured to hold back. I just read, I'm sure you did too, Jim, WNET took out a part of a documentary where Donald Trump was being criticized. The people on The View were told to kind of take it easy on Trump, or maybe play it a little safer. I'm not sure the exact words, so I'm paraphrasing
Yeah.
here. And of course, we had the whole debacle of Wendy McMahon. And of course, there have been other things
Yeah.
written that she wasn't an effective leader. So, all these stories are much more complicated than they're reported at face value. But I think the overall theme is that there is tremendous pressure being placed on these journalists and these publications and these networks. And I think, it's kind of a multifold problem, Jim, because
Yeah.
I think about if I were anchoring the Today Show today, and back in the day, yes, I flew across the plaza as Peter Pan and danced, sang with Darlene Love. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And cooked with Martha Stewart. But we did pretty serious, hard hitting interviews, some
Always.
of which I'm very proud. And I think about the conundrum I might find myself in if I were anchoring the Today Show, because these shows are already declining and they can't
Yeah.
really afford to lose a pretty sizable swath of the American public who may
Yeah.
be Trump supporters. So they have to really carefully navigate, unfortunately, how they cover what's happening in this administration. And I think as a result, they're not covering it very aggressively or at all. And
Yeah.
so I have sympathy for those people because I'm sure they're getting a lot of pressure from their corporate overlords saying, hey, take it easy. We're mass media, but as I always say,
Yeah.
mass media has now become an oxymoron. But it's a real conundrum because if you call Trump out, as you did so well at CNN, people assume you're biased when you're
Yeah.
actually just searching for the truth and trying to give people accurate information. And
Yeah.
I mean, I watched that Caroline Levitt, and I
Oh my
just am
God.
like confounded by just sort of what a propaganda propaganda prop she is for Donald
Yeah.
Trump, and how dismissive she is of really experienced reporters. I know I'm talking too much, but I just wanted to ask
No,
you,
no.
Jim. I wanted to ask you about, like, I mean, you experienced this yourself in the Oval Office, but the other
Yeah.
day when President Trump berated Peter Alexander, who's an incredible
Great guy.
person and a great reporter and an experienced reporter, and it was so, basically tried to humiliate him on national television, and it was
Yeah.
so cringy, as the kids would say, and maybe they don't say that anymore.
I think they
But
still say that.
but I just think
Yeah.
everything that is happening, I mean, don't
I
get
know.
me
Well,
started.
no, but Katie, but you know all too well, Peter is such a pro, and I've worked alongside him for many years. He's an amazing person and a great reporter. He just takes that stuff in stride, and he's probably used to it. He's probably, well, there you go. But it's funny that you mentioned Peter because when I got into my back and forth with Trump that led to the seizure of my press pass back in 2018, it
Yeah,
was
and the
Peter who
woman
stood
grabbing
up.
and the fight over the mic, right?
Exactly. I'm not going to give up my damn mic. That's what I was thinking at the time. But Peter stood up for me and said, Jim's a diligent reporter and everything. And then Trump turns to Peter and says, well, I don't like you very much anyway either. And it kind of went into a back and forth thing there. But
So
I mean,
mature. It's all so mature, isn't it?
I mean, I don't know. I try to behave myself when I have great journalists like yourself on, but I've called him the man childian candidate, and I feel like that sometimes that name sticks. But he relishes this stuff, and he wants to have an enemy. He wants to have a foil, and he wants to go after folks like us because he thinks it scores points with his base. And what I tell people from time to time is that, listen, folks like you and me, we could take it. It's not a big deal. The problem is that there are scores and scores of people out there, Trump supporters, who absorb this kind of hostility and abuse, and they direct it back at us. And sometimes they do it in ways that can be violent and can be very threatening. And it's not good for what we're dealing with right now. And I have to say, I really think he has cracked the code. And I've said this on my show before as well. I think he's really cracked the code in how to hurt the American news media, the way he's gone after these news companies, and we've got to figure out a different. We got to build a better mousetrap for
Yeah,
giving
but
people
I mean,
information.
yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. But I mean,
yeah,
it's terrible, and the way he treats Caitlin Collins,
yeah,
was thinking about her, and I text her occasionally. I wanted to say, like, keep your chin up because it's
yeah.
it's terrible when, and then his base is cheering him on, and that's just a terrible position to be in. But when you say build a better mousetrap, I mean, how?
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I was going to start writing a Substack on this, but I think part of it is, the next time there's another administration that gets into power, there needs to be a real serious investment in public media. I think the fact that PBS and NPR being put over a barrel to me suggests that those operations need to be built up in a way where they just become much more of a fixture in American society, sort of like the BBC in Britain and so on. And maybe these corporate owned entities just can't hack it anymore. I just don't know. I mean, maybe when
Well,
Trump,
there's obviously
yeah,
like this huge conflict of interest, Jim, right? When
yeah,
Sherry Redstone is trying to merge Paramount with Skydance and is looking for a big deal or as big as she can get at this point in time.
yeah.
And they are hanging the threat of a lawsuit against 60 Minutes, which, by the way, is a ludicrous
It's a
claim.
ludicrous.
It is such bullshit, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's so specious. I mean, everything you can say about
Oh,
it
it's a
not
crock of
having
shit. It's
legs.
a total crock of shit. And it speaks to how he is such a child about this stuff. I'm sorry. I hate to say it, but he just, we have a toddler, somebody who behaves like a toddler as president. And I maybe I shouldn't be saying that sort of thing, but I don't
Well, I
know.
think there's something more malevolent even than being a toddler. I think it
Yeah,
goes beyond his sort of petulant, uh, thin-skinned persona. I think it's really about dismantling institutions.
yeah,
I don't think it's about him having a hissy fit. I think it's about him, requiring people to live in fear, for
yeah,
journalists to not report the truth, for them to think twice before they report something, for their executives to now be afraid. Look what happened to CBS, right? We better
yeah.
be extra careful. And as a result, I think it's a much the ramifications are much bigger than just him getting his way and
Oh, I totally agree. No, I think him behaving like a toddler is just one component of this. I think at the heart of the matter here is somebody who wants to transform American society into something that it's never been, and that is a much more authoritarian like government, a Putin-style corrupt authoritarian government. And you see the way he's been handling these pardons, the way he's been peddling this meme coin, the way
well,
he's been trying.
the
Yeah,
corruption is just not to be believed. And
yeah,
I don't know about you, Jim, and I think probably people watching this, it's like you're drinking out of a fire hose every
yeah,
day
that's true.
because, you could just, but, blind for yourself and throw a dot, and wherever it lands, it would be a story of corruption or malfeasance or just pure obnoxiousness
Yeah,
or, hurting people with legislation, the quote unquote big beautiful bill. I mean, tweeting about or on social media, saying
yeah.
Vladimir Putin, you're a bad boy. It's
Targeting migrants without due process. I mean,
oh yeah,
the
I
list
mean,
goes on and on. And we would be able to focus on the CBS story for a moment if it weren't for all of these other things. And it's this Steve Bannon flood the zone with shit,
yeah,
shock and awe thing. Yeah,
Someone named Tracy just said it's intentional, and I think
yeah,
she's
it is.
absolutely right. I think, you know, I know that you see this as, a calling, journalism, and trying to inform the public. I have always felt that way too. And I think the goal is to disgust people, exhaust people, and make people stop paying attention because it
Yeah,
is too overwhelming. But that's why we have to really continue. And I think join forces in a way. I think my husband was talking about Kara Swisher, who I'm friendly with, and I
she's
guess she
great.
and Scott Galloway, I love Kara, and they were talking about how people who are pointing some of these transgressions out, I mean, that's sort of a mild term for everything that's happening, need to kind of form their own network, their own ecosystem, and
I
prop
agree.
each other up to not only, make sure the message gets out loud and clear, but also as a way to fight extreme right-wing media, which is
Yeah.
obviously propping him up and celebrating and perpetuating his agenda. And so we just keep doing what we're doing. And honestly, I had never felt, I mean, I always felt a huge responsibility. You talk about 9/11, that
Yeah.
terrible day where the whole world seemed like, honestly, it seemed like who knew what was happening? It felt
Yeah.
kind of weirdly War of the Worldish. And I felt this enormous responsibility back then, Jim, but I don't think I have ever felt a sense of responsibility to make sure people understand and appreciate and and really comprehend the context of everything that's going on in this country. I feel an enormous sense of purpose and an enormous responsibility to do that right now, and I
Absolutely.
know you do too, and I don't
Yeah.
think I could do it if I was in network news.
Well, let's do this. Let's join forces and let's keep doing this. I would love to keep having this conversation, keep it going, because honestly, this is what I think this is what folks are looking for. We can give folks the information, but do it in an unvarnished way where you just grab them by the shirt collar a little bit and tell them like, hey, this is what's happening. We're not going to sugarcoat this here. You need to hear the truth. What's happening right now is very serious stuff. But it's so great to
And
talk to
and
you.
to report the truth isn't
Yeah.
being biased.
Exactly. That's right. I mean, I've said it. There aren't two sides to a story when it's a matter of right versus wrong, and that's what I'm going to keep doing here. And damn the torpedoes. But Katie, it's an honor to speak with you. I'm so happy that we were able to do this. I hope we can do it again. It would be
Yeah,
amazing.
definitely, and I can tell you all about my experience kind of going into digital media. I was an early adapter, as they say.
I
I've been
know.
doing this for about 7 years because I think I saw the handwriting on the wall, that technology was going to really transform the way we communicate and the way we share information. And it's been a really interesting journey. And it doesn't mean that I'm not sad in a way about sort of linear television and newspapers, especially local newspapers, folding or having financial trouble. But
Yeah.
I'm really glad that I was on the front end of making a change and adjusting to what really is a new normal in terms of
Yeah.
reporting and sharing content and information for people.
Well, Katie, again, such an honor to speak with you. Thank you so much for doing this, and make sure you check out Katie here on Substack and everywhere else.
Yeah, it's my
That
first day, everyone. I'm
it's your
very excited.
first day at school, so to speak, on the
I
Substack
do. I
machine.
feel like it's the first day at school, and I'll look for you if I have any questions about stuff, Jim. I'll reach out, and maybe you can be sort of, what do you call it? Your mentor. Well, not mentor. Like when you're in school, don't you have like a big
Backpack
brother?
buddy or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, you're my big.
you got it. Anytime. I'll always be your big. Reach out anytime.
Okay, thanks, Jim, and
Thanks,
thanks
Katie.
everyone for watching. Okay,
Great to see
bye.
you. We'll do it again
Bye.
soon. All right, it's coming up fast. My live town hall right here at the Lincoln Theater in Washington, D.C. on Monday, June the 2nd. Get your tickets now. Mike Fanone is going to be here. Olivia Troy is going to be here, and some special guests you're not going to want to miss. Get your tickets now. They're going fast.